I had a private Discord call with Kuno and I learned a shit ton. If you somehow don't know who he is because you live under a rock, here's a few pieces that he's worked on. So obviously he's excellent at art, but perhaps just as impressively, he's built a super large following of well over 200,000 plebeians on the X platform, previously known as Twitter, because who the fuck actually calls it X? Not including other platforms. So being that I'm a fan of his work and that he's got a large following and so on and so forth, and I'm trying to build an art business thing here, I interviewed him, basically. I got him to jump into a Discord call and I was going to record it, but he's super busy and I didn't really have very much time to prep. So with like 15-20 minutes notice, we just kind of talked. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the key takeaways. There's probably going to be some edits in this because I'm already rambling and going off script. But yeah, don't watch this video if you don't actually care about improving and learning the correct way. Don't watch this video if you don't want to know how to actually have a healthy relationship with social media and actually grow. Okay, so now that the losers are gone, I'm kidding. I'm going to walk you through some of the things that stuck out to me in our conversation, some of the things that were most helpful to me. First and foremost, before we even get started, if you are interested in content like this, I am interviewing lots of artists. I have relationships with some people with 5, 6, 7-digit audiences. Yes, really. Yeah, I have access to these people. There are more of these coming down the pipeline. I've already done some interviews. This was the first interview I've done that was technically audio, but what I'm planning to do moving forward is to actually put the fucking audios on YouTube. So if you like the idea of that, because I don't see anybody else really doing this well, maybe I'm not doing it well either, but I don't see anybody else doing it. Please hit like, hit subscribe to stay, to stay up on what I'm doing. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Anyway, let's get into the sauce here. So one of the big lessons that he shared with me, first and foremost, really, I mean, it was something that that I wanted to know about his work, is the composition. Something that an art friend of mine was asking me to ask him as well, so it kind of overlapped quite nicely. But the guy's just got like a really dynamic style. You kind of recognize it right away. Really good at kind of putting things in like weird, different perspectives. And for the most part, it's very hard to get good reference for these types of things. So one of the things that I wanted to ask him, obviously, was how the hell do you actually do this stuff? We'll talk more about how he kind of developed as an artist later, but based on some of the conversation we had there, one of the things we found is the guy just has a fuck ton of influences. And same thing with his references. He just pulls from everything. He'll pull from movie posters, book covers, end screens of different things, splash art from a game analytics screen at the end of a game that he's playing, a well-designed bag, a figure, a doll, whatever it might be, graphic design stuff. He'll just rip apart the design of that and he'll try to incorporate it into his illustrations. So I think that probably, not exclusively, he did talk about some other things that he does as well. But, I've seen some people, like I have a friend that uses like a ridiculously big artboard, and she's probably the closest one I've seen to this, but most people maybe use 1, 2, 3 references. This guy has like a fucking conglomerate of references that he just puts together, which I thought was really cool. So that's one thing. The other thing is positive constraints. So, and honestly, the script that I wrote here is probably better than my ramblings, but when I read off of a script, I sound like I'm reading off a script. So I figure that's not good for any of us. One of the things that he mentioned to me about how he actually improved at the craft of art is basically he was shadowing and studying industry professionals and looking at the process they would actually use in their careers, right? So particularly in the West, and I mean, I guess this is still kind of a thing in the East, but like one of the things that he highlighted was focusing on artists that are drawing within specific IPs where you have to have a particular style, the characters have to be designed in a particular way, there's certain action items that have to be present. I'll explain what that is in a second. And basically what this is doing for him is it's adding in positive constraints. So what is an action item? So that I don't just leave you hanging on that. Basically, an action item is this basic description of what is the art actually supposed to be of. So the example he gave was maybe your action item is Spider-Man saves an old lady from a burning building, right? So that's like the simplest version of this. So we know that no matter what we're drawing, it's going to include that somehow, but how we actually lay out the composition, how we interpret that, how we design that, that's up to us. That's where the creativity lives. Now, the other thing that he highlighted that we ended up digging into a decent amount is other types of positive constraints that you could use in your own training. Now, in his case, most of the illustrations that he actually does are for his work. So that obviously is going to color a lot of this stuff. But even if you're just kind of like drawing, training on your own, you can kind of utilize this idea of positive creative constraints. So for example, right, you know, you can say, okay, I'm going to use these couple of references or this character in a couple different poses. I'm going to spend 10 minutes on each, and I'm going to really focus on shape design to try to accentuate the anatomy of the legs, right? And I'm just going to do that for the next 45 minutes, right? And again, with that level of specificity, what have I done? Well, number one, I've already kind of ameliorated the problem that many of us have, which is this blank canvas syndrome where we don't know what we want to draw, we don't know how we want to draw it. By getting specific about what the action item is, so to speak, what the drawing is for, what you're trying to get out of it, what you're trying to learn. And this is another thing that Kuno brought up too, is that when you're making, not just like compositions, but just when you're doing anything, it's like, what's this for? What's this going to be used for, right? Is this an ad for something? Is this going to be a book cover? Is this going to be a splash art? Because that's going to inform things a lot. That's kind of the medium is the message for those of you that are familiar with that saying. The other thing is, right, like, is this going to be this teeny tiny little thing where I need big shapes to make things read from a distance? Is this going to be something where I can, you know, a large poster where I can go into lots of detail, even in some of these less important elements and stuff like that? So you always kind of have to ask, like, what is this actually going to be used for? And then, like I said, find tons and tons of references. They don't have to exactly fit what it is that you're drawing, but you're going to rip apart the design, and then you're going to kind of use that to remove a lot of the guesswork from creativity, which, and again, one of the things I really like about this is that this is a dial, right, that you can turn. You can be much more specific, or you can keep it more broad, and you can just kind of move your hand around on a canvas and just do whatever you want. So it really puts power back in the artist's hand to be able to, what would you say, to not have to, like, not have an alternative to the anxiety of having a blank piece of paper in front of you. So anyway, the other thing, I'm not going to say the last thing, we talked about a lot of stuff, but one of the things that we really talked about that I really wanted to dig into in this video, I don't know how long this is ultimately going to be, but the biggest thing probably that we talked about was social media. And again, we talked about a lot of other stuff too, but, you know, being that he has a following and that it looks like he has a relatively healthy relationship with social media, which was one of the reasons why I really wanted to reach out to him to kind of ask about that stuff. And he actually gave me some really, really good advice. So yeah, one of the things that he highlighted is something you've kind of heard before, but like, social media is a game, and you need to be really clear about why you're playing it. Like, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to get out of social media, right? The social in social, right, despite it being integral to the phrase, isn't something we really think about a lot. And one of the questions he posed to me is, you know, who is it that you're trying to be social towards, right? He really emphasized that despite having a large audience, one of the things he tries to do is say, like, you know, who are the people that I'm really trying to speak to? Who is this really for? What are the specific connections that I'm trying to build? And so while he has, you know, 224, 100,000 followers on X, he's like, I probably care about less than 1% of those people in terms of who I'm trying to speak to, because there's casual fans, and then there's the types of people that are going to be high signal, that are going to move the needle. What do I mean by that? Well, if the work that you're doing is stuff that would actually be highly desirable in an industry, and some art director or somebody at a company or some badass artist that you want to talk to that can make you better, et cetera, that can open doors for you, sees that, follows you, and that becomes the catalyst for a conversation, them to reach out to you, you to reach out to them, all of a sudden, that's potentially a relationship and a bunch of doors that have now been open that maybe wouldn't have been open otherwise, right? So this is a great example of something that Paul Graham calls staying upwind, where it's like you want to work on projects and do activities, work with people that by having done them, even if you don't like become successful in the traditional sense, even if you don't make a ton of money or, whatever, on the other side of it, you have skills and relationships and opportunities that are more vast than what you had before you started. This is a really important concept. Now, obviously, he's talking about it in a little bit of a different context, but I think that this can be applied to just about anything. So it's like, are the things that I'm doing on social media, right? Like if I don't go viral, if I don't get 200,000 followers or whatever the goal you think you have is, am I still cultivating a habit of posting my work, right? Am I exposing myself to high signal people that could actually help further me in career, that I could have brilliant friendships with, people that are going to actually create opportunities for me and open doors? And again, this is a really big shift for me, because I've read 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly. I've listened to a lot of different things. I've read all sorts of books. I've gotten lots of advice from so many different creatives and business owners, successful entrepreneurs, from people that are working 2 hours a week, making 20K a month, the billionaires, and like everything in between in every different field. I've deconstructed this from so many people. And this has been really helpful to me, because one of the places where I get stuck is I make stuff that's super high effort that I am proud of, right? And then it doesn't perform the way that I want it to perform. And then I get in my head about that. I get really self-conscious, right? And that was something that I kind of asked him about, is like, how do you stay mentally healthy? And for him, it was really two things. One, it was by getting your reps in. I have no idea if I'm actually going to use this audio. By getting your repetitions in, you build the muscle of like posting, whether it's good, whether it's bad, sharing your thoughts. You get over the embarrassment, the anxiety, the insecurity of posting, and of like people criticizing you in public or whatever else it might be. And you come to realize that like it's really just about showing up and having the practice. Of course, the second thing is by changing your relationship and realizing that, and it's a cliche, and I didn't used to understand this, because people always used to say like, oh man, I'll be happy if this just reaches one person. I'm like, that's BS. I would never like write a book for one person to read it, even if I love that person more than anyone in the entire world, because that is not worth how hard it is to write a book. Same thing with making a YouTube video or like a really in-depth post on LinkedIn. Like if one person is going to read this and give me a thumbs up, that's a waste of my time, right? I could have just told that person the lessons in a DM or something. What I guess I hadn't thought about enough is that if that is a high signal person who you enter into a relationship with, right, of some kind of friendship, a business partnership, a romantic relationship, I don't know, right, a mentor, a mentee, somebody you work with, somebody you invest in, somebody that invests in you, somebody that has other connections, that is, connected to other high signal people, to other badasses that you can then connect with, right? That's a huge win. So like one person can actually just be worth 1,000 opportunities. Never forget that, right? That like one relationship can make you 10 million bucks. And like, you really need to think about it that way. And obviously it's not all about money, but like cultivating one relationship, which could be through one sentence in one post that you made 2 years ago, that would not have occurred if you didn't post that, if you talked yourself out of it, if you said, I don't know if people are going to like this. The other thing that he shared with me that I thought was kind of funny was his own personal self-talk. If something doesn't really get the attention or the engagement, he's just like, you know what? Most people have bad taste. Like the fact of the matter is, people say that they want the premium $8 luxury chocolate bar, but when push comes to shove, they choose the Hershey bar every time. They choose the Kit Kat. they choose, and again, I'm not saying that these are like, that these are bad, right? But it's like people tell you that they want the premium experience and they choose the cheap experience, right? So social media is just like that. It's like if you're making something that's niche, if you're making something high touch, high signal, understand that most likely you're going to reach fewer people with that. That's just how it works. The other thing, and again, this might seem kind of obvious, but it's also really important. Those people are probably going to care a lot more about the thing that you made. I had something in my notes here about like something I recall from Alex Ramosi. And again, whether you love him or hate him, this is not, anything for or against him or his content, but he was kind of telling this story about how he was making all kinds of YouTube videos for like broke people. He'd be like, if you're broke, watch this. Now we get hundreds of thousands or millions of views, reliably many, many, many times more than if he made content for business owners that were already doing 7 figures, that were already doing well, that wanted to scale to the next level. The difference is what happened. All the people in that first cohort that are broke don't have any money. So they don't actually have the ability to go and buy his products or like work with him, right? And actually like grow his business. So it's like, the people in the second cohort, even if that video only gets 50,000 views or 80,000 views or whatever it is, that's not as big of a number for him. That shit might convert like 50 times as well. And people don't think about that. And again, when you already have big numbers, it seems more relevant. Like, oh, it must be nice for him to have a team of 40 people to help him make YouTube content X, Y, and Z. But for us, for the solopreneurs, for the people that are kind of earlier in our journey or that don't have big followings, because I don't have a big following. I mean, hopefully I'll be able to develop, a minimum viable audience at some point and kind of do this stuff. But I'm trying to think a bit more in terms of what do I actually want out of this? Like what value would I actually want to get out of building an audience? And I'm always thinking like what I really want is to be able to make enough money doing the stuff that I want to do, that it's sustainable and I don't have to work like another part-time job that I hate to do this stuff. That's my ultimate goal. Like I want to be able to sit 7 days a week and have the option to paint like every day, or go off and study Japanese or Korean, right? Or go learn chess, or go, do whatever, and not feel like I need to like just be busy all the time. That's really what I want. And the fact of the matter is, just like people you see on TikTok, right? Like there are people that have so many views, that get so many vanity metrics. And what makes it vanity is that it doesn't convert, right? It's like, oh, you have 5 million people that watch this video on TikTok, Are those people that would come to a meetup with you? No. Are those people that are going to buy a product from you? No. Are those people that go to your website? No. Are those people that are going to give you money? No. They're just people that engage with this 30-second thing that you made that maybe made them laugh, and then they forget about you 5 seconds later. That's not an audience that you can actually like utilize. And when I say extract value, I don't mean it in a negative way, but I mean like, what is the reason you're trying to build an audience? Because it's probably not just to inflate your ego or to have a large number you can tell your friends about. I mean, maybe it is. And if it is, like, be honest about that it's an ego thing and it's a vanity thing. It's marketing. You want to put yourself out there. Why do you want to put yourself out there? Because you want job opportunities, because you want to make money, because you want to grow your business, because you want to sell shit. You want to sell your art course that's 30% off because of A, B, and C. That's what you're trying to do. So think of it that way. Think of it as a business. Think of it as a game, and remember why you're playing that game. But anyway, I think I could say more. We definitely talked about a lot of different things. We got into some more esoteric stuff as well. I think I'll leave that for a different video, because otherwise this video would be 40 minutes long, and I don't want to do that. I also think that's probably going to serve different people, because we went really into the weeds, and I don't even know how interesting it would be to hear secondhand. I really wish I had just recorded this fucking conversation, because that would be so much better. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. If you like this, if this was useful, again, please like, subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought. As I said before, I've got more of these in the pipeline. There are more artists that I'm speaking to that I've already spoken to, that definitely have, I would say, some interesting things to share, some stuff that'll definitely help you as it has helped me. But anyway, yeah, I think that's it. See you soon.